Everyone, welcome to the show. I have a bunch of updates to share about Donald Trump's trial today. So, first off, the judge in this case, Judge Juan Merchan, started the day by calling Trump out to his face. Basically, he lied. I know it's so shocking. He tried to spin for his MAGA base, as usual, right? Trump claimed he wanted to testify. He really does want to testify in this New York hush money trial, but he can't. And the reason why is because of the gag order. So otherwise, he would do it. So he said that on Thursday. He told the press after the trial finished that day, quote, "I'm not allowed to testify because of an unconstitutional gag order." So they just ate that up on Liar Social. They bought that hook, line, and sinker. So this morning, Judge Merchan told Trump, quote, "I want to stress to Mr. Trump, you have an absolute right to testify at trial." So completely called him out, called his bluff. So the prosecutor started off by calling a paralegal who works with the district attorney's office. She was asked about social media posts she collected for the prosecutor. She testified that she viewed between 5 and 10,000 posts that Trump had made, or others, I'm sure, as well, and that had posted to various social media sites. And then she saved approximately 1,500. So this was another witness just coming up to authenticate, the posts that the prosecutors are sharing with the jury. The next person who took the stand was a big one. This was Hope Hicks. So she was Trump's press secretary, if you're not familiar with her. She started working for Trump, though, before he became president. She started working for him in 2014. She left the White House in 2018, and then she came back again in 2020, and then she left in 2021 when the White House folded. I think she may have left a little bit early, but they were very close when she was working for him, both before and after the presidency. Reporters have always said, he called her Hopi. He would tell people, "Oh, where's my Hopi?" She was never far away from him. Even in the White House, he had her sitting just outside of the Oval Office, and she was basically at his beck and call. But Hicks says she hasn't spoken to Trump since the summer of 2022. And apparently they had dinner together. He asked her, at that dinner, was January 6th really as bad as they're making it out? And she said yes. She told him the truth. So I respect her for being honest with him. And it appears their relationship cooled after that. And also after she testified before the January 6th Select Committee. And some of her January 6th text messages were made public as a result. So not good, because she was, saying, "Oh, he's destroying his legacy." She was not that kind. I mean, although she was a little bit self-centered in some of the text messages, like, "Oh, how are we ever going to get jobs after this?" Like, "Oh yeah, cops are having the shit beat out of them, but, worry about your job prospects." And anyway, I think all of this is maybe why she's paying for her own attorney. She made that clear up front. Could also be she didn't want to have to lie. She didn't want to be pressured to lie for Trump. In any case, Hicks confirmed she and Trump spoke daily. This was even before taking a position at the White House. She also made the comment that Trump is a, quote, good multitasker. So that really undercuts the defense and the argument that I believe they will ultimately try to make, that, oh, he was signing these checks and he was, so busy, he didn't have the time, he was distracted, he didn't know what was going on because of his other duties. And then when asked who she reported to, Hicks said she and everyone else reported directly to Trump. Hicks said Trump was, quote, very involved in press and media matters, and, quote, we were all just following his lead. And they ran all the press statements, she said, by Trump first. So this corroborates other testimony that Trump micromanaged everything. And it again undercuts the defense when they try to prove that, oh, Cohen went rogue, Trump had no knowledge, he wasn't involved, he didn't know anything about it. And Hicks was then asked about the Access Hollywood tape, and the transcript of the recording was read to her and the jury because remember, the judge ruled that they could not actually watch it. The prosecutor couldn't show the video in court, but they could read the transcript. So they read that. Had to been uncomfortable. She confirmed that that whole thing caused a complete firestorm in the campaign. They didn't know how they were going to tamp this down. They didn't know how they were going to overcome it. She referred to it as a, quote, massive story. And she said, quote, this was a crisis. And this was important to prove because the prosecutor is trying to prove, look, all of this came out around the same time. So they knew they could take one hit, like the Access Hollywood recording, but if you keep coming at him, you keep hitting him with, the Karen McDougal story and then Stormy McDaniels, no, his support would completely collapse. It would just be too much. That's why they had to cover it up. And then this was really interesting because I always wonder, how do these women in good conscience work for a man like Trump? So Hicks said she only learned of Trump's rumored behavior with women after the Access Hollywood story came out. She said she didn't know anything about him being, a consummate cheater, a repeated adulterer. I mean, accused by almost 24 women of sexual assault, including, one who accuses him of raping and beating her when she was 13 at Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York. But anyway, she then confirmed hearing about Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels on November 4th of 2016. So this is right before the election, days before the election. And Hicks said she received an email from the Wall Street Journal. This is how she found out about Karen McDougal. They were asking her about the payment. So she called Jared Kushner first, she forwarded him the email, and then she called Michael Cohen and David Pecker. Now, Cohen advised her, just deny the allegation, as they always did. And then he said, blame the, quote, liberal media and Clinton machine. And she said she later heard Trump talking with Cohen on the phone about the Wall Street Journal article. And so again, for Trump to say, oh, I had no idea, I wasn't involved in any of this, I just left it up to everybody else and blah, blah, blah. I mean, he was very involved. And Cohen later texted Hicks several times that same day, and he said, call me, and then he followed up with a couple of texts asking, any news, any news. So the Trump campaign continued to deny these allegations, of course, and then Cohen later texted and said, keep praying, it's working, like their denials, like, the story wasn't that big. Not like the Access Hollywood thing, which she admitted there was a Category 4 hurricane heading towards the United States, and the Access Hollywood tape was so big, that story became so huge, it crowded out the hurricane, the Category 4 hurricane. So anyway, in a text from Hicks to Cohen, she asked for David Pecker's phone number. And so the prosecutor asked her, why did you want Pecker's number? And she said, quote, because Mr. Trump wanted to speak with him. So it just goes to show he didn't always call people direct. Sometimes she got people on the phone for him. I mean, this is well reported that people around him, he would say, get so-and-so on the phone for me. And so there are very few records of him directly calling someone, but they spoke. Now, she did say Trump was worried about Melania seeing news reports, and he tried to stop the newspapers from being delivered to their home that day. Like as if she wouldn't see it anywhere else. So this is the first witness to actually say, oh yeah, he actually did give a damn about Melania and her reaction. Hicks was later asked about Madeleine Westerhout. She was Trump's director of operations in the White House. So she sat right outside of Trump's door, outside of the Oval Office. Now, Westerhout texted Hicks the day that Karen McDougal was reportedly suing the National Enquirer. And she said, Westerhout said to Hicks, Trump wants to know if you called David Pecker again. So all of this is just tying Trump to the scandal, tying him to the deal with Pecker, or at least attempting to make that connection. But the prosecutor ended their questioning after a really stunning admission by Hicks. She said in 2018, she was having a conversation with Trump, and he said to her that basically was like musing, it's much better, don't you think, that the McDougal story that came out now instead of during the election. So, yeah, that was kind of a mic drop moment because it was basically an admission. It was basically a confession to everything by Trump, or at least the McDougal thing, right? Which he had vehemently denied before. And now he's kind of admitting, yeah, I knew they buried it. I knew they buried it back during the election. And good thing it didn't come out then. Whew. So the defense had their work cut out for them, especially because Hope Hicks has never, at least publicly, said anything negative about Trump. She has never had a break with him, really. They have maintained at least somewhat of a relationship, even though she hasn't spoken to him in a couple of years. But by all accounts, they still like each other. They still care for each other. So the defense gets up, they start their cross-examination, and they ask Hicks about her time working at the Trump Organization. And she immediately became emotional when they brought up the fact that, the Trump family gave you a job. And so she visibly started to tear up. She said, I can use a break. She, turned away from the microphone. So the jury was removed. They gave her a few minutes to regain her composure. And then Hicks took the stand again, and the defense didn't really ask her many questions after that. I think they realized it was going to be kind of shaky territory. So they did score a bit of a win, though. They asked her about Michael Cohen, and she agreed with the defense attorneys that Cohen went, quote, rogue, and that he did some unhelpful things. And then Hicks also offered that Cohen used to refer to himself as a fixer or Mr. Fix-It, but she said, quote, it was only because he first broke it. So amazing that she is still so naive about Trump and why Cohen would have to step in and handle things for him, right? So anyway, court ended early today because a juror had another obligation. So the prosecutor chose not to redirect because they only had like 15 minutes left or so. I don't know if they just didn't have any questions, any redirect to do, or if they're going to call her back on Monday. So we will see. I will let you know what happens on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please like this video, share it, become a subscriber, become a donor if you can, or leave a tip or a super thanks. So appreciate it. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.